Live from Los Angeles. It's time to get inside the Gamers Dome with your host, Scott Gerhardt. Bringing you all of today's gaming news and information all in one place. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the Gamers Dome.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 17 of the Gamers Dome. As always, I'm your host, Scott Gerhardt, and we are back to our normal format this week. So we have our co-host, Amber Mitchell. Hey, Amber.
Hey, guys. What's up?
Oh, goodness gracious. There's been all sorts of stuff going on here lately. How's your week been?
My week has been insane. I've actually, I guess, relocated. I should probably announce that. To Vegas. So me and Melissa will be partying it up.
Woohoo! Up there in Sin City. What happens in Vegas? You know what? Just don't tell me about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fair enough.
Yeah, so I've been actually getting into a bit more Magic this last week. I actually went to 2 different Magic tournaments in the last week, and I can't remember the last time I went to 2 separate tournaments. I went to my first Friday Night Magic in over a year and a half, which I did okay at, and then I went to a Star City Games Invitational Qualifier, which I guess if I look at it from the outside, I can't be too upset with how I did, considering who my opponents were over the course of the day, but it still was overall not a very good tournament for me. So I guess anything less than winning was kind of disappointing, and not even making top 8 was bad. But you know what? I've been in this a long time. There's been plenty of tournaments I've done well at that I probably shouldn't have, and vice versa. So this just happened to be one of those I thought I should have and didn't.
Yeah. Well, and you're just getting back into it. So
yeah, I have to admit it feels kind of good to be getting back into things. So let's go ahead and jump into our week's news and information. So
we have a lot today.
Yeah, we do. The first one was one that just really tickled me as an old school first-person shooter player. Wolfenstein. Good grief. I looked at the trailer for this. Wolfenstein, the New Order announcement trailer came out, and it's supposed to come out in Q4 this year. And I mean, for me, I just can't look at Wolfenstein without thinking of like cheesy old like 8-bit type graphics, and to see what I saw was like it just kind of blew my mind. It looks cool.
Like when they reboot old franchises, it's a hit and miss thing for me, but yeah, it does look really cool.
Yeah, so I just got a chance, and yeah, they just put it out today. I found it on GameSpot.com, so if anyone wants to check it out, feel free to go over there and take a look.
You're giving me ideas. I already have too many games on my plate. Dang it.
Yeah, I know. I kind of feel the same way. I actually picked up a whole bunch of games this weekend that I've started trying to play a little bit of, and I just have too much going on. So
I think that's one of the things about doing a gaming podcast is you just always want to keep playing all the games. Play all the games.
Yes, all the games, all the time. Yeah, so and there's only so much time, unfortunately.
Oh.
So speaking of games that kind of have made me a little nostalgic and make me like, Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix will be launching September 10th.
It's so cool.
I know. I mean, for those of you who don't know, it's Kingdom Hearts is a Final Fantasy and Disney mix, and it just
But okay, so this is going to be only for the PS3, but you really should pre-order because you're going to get the limited edition artwork and stuff. So if you're a huge fan of the franchise, pre-order it.
Yeah, the having been a former Disney cast member myself for 2 years and a big Final Fantasy fan, just this franchise has always just kind of made my heart smile, and they even made a card game of it for a while. So I still have cards from the game, and I love the game. And it was awesome, and so I really can't wait to get my hands on this one.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to be making use of a PS3 again.
Make what?
I said I will be making use of a PS3 again.
Yes. Well, let's stick on Disney here for a little while, and let's team Disney up with one of our favorite companies. Of course, the people who we absolutely love around here, GameSpot, or excuse me, not GameSpot. Excuse me,
EA.
Wow, EA. I've got GameSpot on the line because I'm looking at a story on their site right now. Yeah, EA and Disney are teaming up for the Star Wars game. So it's basically we've gone from the LucasArts to EA now.
It's yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this, especially with obviously the bad press EA has been getting lately, but I don't know. I'm torn on this.
Yeah, I mean,
then okay, but to be fair, I'm not a huge Star Wars game fan, so
yeah, I haven't been either myself, but I just kind of wonder which EA are we going to get? Are we going to get lately EA? Or, I mean, Disney, I have a lot of respect from Disney from a business perspective. And for Disney to decide that they want to go this direction tells me that they see something that maybe I don't. Or at least
right.
I'm really hoping that's what the case is. So they'll be... They're going to be spanning all the platforms, mobile, social, tablet, online markets. We don't know a whole lot more at this time. We just simply know that there is a multi-year exclusive arrangement signed to do it.
Multi-year, so
yeah.
If their first chance at it doesn't work out, maybe they can back out of it. That's kind of good news.
Yeah. Though, sticking on EA for a little bit, we just keep chaining here. I'm liking this.
I know.
Hi,
EA.
EA has released their Q4 financial results, and it actually apparently has been, despite all the negative press, has been pretty good for them. Battlefield 3 Premium generated over $120 million in revenue through the March quarter, has over 3.5 million subscriptions. SimCity sold 1.6 million units since launching in March. FIFA 13 sold over 14.5 million units. I mean, there's a lot of very positive news coming out. So.
Yeah, they came out with big titles, and it was good, but they just just I don't know. I mean, they have the big titles, so just keep up with your customers, EA. That's all. That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
You got some good titles.
So we've been talking lately about the new systems, the PS4 and the Xbox 720. Going to require an always-on internet connection, but
yes, this was actually the best news of the day for me.
Yeah, this one made me pretty happy as well. Here, it would appear as though that is not going to be true for the Xbox, at least. A leaked internal Microsoft memo for next-gen platforms states the system will be, quote, tolerant of today's internet. Quote, there are a number of scenarios that our users expect to work without an internet connection. Those should just work regardless of their current connection status. Those include but are not limited to playing a Blu-ray disc, watching live TV, and yes, playing a single-player game.
Yep, makes sense. Unless, well, if you have a single-player game and you just want to play with a friend in house, a multiplayer I'm sorry, if you have a multiplayer game where you guys, you just want to play around with your buddies. I don't know if that's cleared up.
Yeah, I think they're more referring to like online, but I don't know. I mean, again, everything's all speculative right now.
Yep.
Though there is an event going on the 21st of May, so in 2 weeks we should have a lot of information.
Yeah.
A lot of actually credible information. We'll be done with rumors for a while.
Thank goodness. I'm done with rumors.
Yes. So a Kickstarter campaign called GTFO, a film about women in gaming, reached a $20,000 funding target on Kickstarter. So it's going to happen. It's a documentary about sexism in games. So the funding will actually close on May 10th for it. So it'll be interesting. I know we keep talking about stories about bridging the gender gap in gaming, and it'll be interesting to see what this project turns out.
Yeah, I want to see the movie. I mean, I can imagine a few women that they're already going to interview about this, but yeah, still so excited about it because as they talk about it, there is both good and bad aspects of being, female in a male-dominated industry. But this is just, I don't know. It's a topic that's close to my heart. Obviously, being a female gamer and working in the industry before. So yeah, I'm excited that this got funded, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So,
what are you laughing about?
I'm just kind of giggling about our next story because it just makes it the irony factor behind it is ridiculous. A game dev tycoon,
which, by the way, is a very hard game.
Yeah. What happens when pirates play a game development simulator and then go bankrupt because of piracy? Yeah, this is the question asked by Greenheart Games, the two-man indie developers made up of Patrick and Daniel Klug, who included a special surprise within hacked copies of their game. The game costs $8 to buy, which goes straight back to the creators, but after a day on sale, 3,104 of the 3,318 copies being played were pirated. So let's put this in perspective. 3,104 copies were pirated, and by my math, it looks like 214 were legit.
Oh.
So those who play the pirated version are warned that their own attempts at creating games are being hampered by piracy. Profits for each project will be less than those who own and paid for the full game. I am seriously just laughing at this one when pirates have to deal with pirates in the game.
Is pretty awesome.
It almost makes me want to get my hands on both copies, like pay for a copy and then get a hacked copy, and then yeah, exactly. If nothing else, it's getting them some good publicity about it.
That's true.
Why not have fun with it?
No, that game is so hard. I'm sorry, it's so hard.
So the last story, I thought, you know what? I figure I'll let you mostly take the lead on this one. Eve turns 10.
Yay! Congratulations, Eve and CCP and all the people out there in the Eveverse. It's pretty huge. They've made some major changes over the last 10 years, but the thing that I am loving about this is that they're going to what was it that they're going that the mayor of Reykjavik
is
Reykjavik. I always say Reykjavik for some reason.
Yeah.
Who's a comedian, and he had cross-dressed as a granny for a previous game function, and so he's coming back And I think that's awesome. I mean, Iceland really doesn't have like a huge gaming industry, so it's
Yeah.
pretty cool when you see like politicians kind of be like, "Hey, this is one of our babies, so let's get in on it." It's really funny. They just had the Eve meet happen. It was back east, so I didn't go, but all of my friends who went to Eve said it was awesome, and every time that there's like an Eve get together, it's good fun. But this one apparently was pretty huge because 10 years.
Woohoo!
So, and wow, I was playing in 2005, so I was only a few years behind the inception.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fabulous.
Yep. So far in 2013, the game it's reached over 500,000 subscribers, with the average player clocking in at around 16 hours a week. 16 hours a week for an average. That's pretty hardcore.
And that's, yeah, as an average. I know people who will
a lot more,
spend way more, and you have to realize the thing that I can never get across to people enough is it's people who play this game are not just playing it in game, they're playing it out of game also. So even though they're saying they're clocking in those 16 hours a week in game, there's hours outside of game that's happening, like dealing with the politics and the economy. It kills me how intense this game can get.
Wow. So, well, that is going to be everything for news and information this week. When we come back, we have an interview with one of the most influential TCG dealers out there right now. You may not know who he is before this interview, but you'll certainly know who he is afterwards. The owner of Power9.com, Dan Bock, is our interview. When we come back, you are listening to the Gamers Dome on the Drawing Board Radio Network. So my PS3 recently crashed, and I thought it was dead. I didn't want to buy a new one. Then I found out about Fusion Electronics over in Huntington Park. In just over an hour, they had it working perfectly again. I can't thank those guys enough. Don't trash your old system when it breaks. Take it to my friends over at Fusion Electronics. Free estimates, 90-day warranty on all their work, and if they can't fix it, there's no charge. Any modern gaming systems, iPhones, and more. Call them today at 323-972-3376 or email them at fusionrepairs@gmail.com. Again, 323-972-3376 or fusion with the Z repairs@gmail.com. You need it fixed, they've got you covered.
Attention techno fans, you're listening to Electromotion by Studiotronics, just one of the many exciting tracks from their album Straight from the Source. Stimulate your brain and get your body moving to these high energy cuts. Also, check out their newest single available for download, Electro. Don't just sit there, get your fix for Studiotronics, now available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and CDBaby.com. Are you looking for Magic the Gathering singles? Shuffle and Cut Games' friendly staff has provided gamers one of the internet's biggest selections of singles since 2000. And if you have extra cards you don't need anymore, Shuffle and Cut Games has one of the most extensive buy lists around, paying top dollar for your unwanted cards. If you live near our La Habra, California location, come down and play in our weekly Friday night Magic tournaments. For more info, visit shuffleandcut.com. That's shuffleandcut.com. Shuffle and Cut Games, your source for Magic the Gathering.
Welcome everyone back to the Gamers Dome.
Hi.
So I did this interview with Dan yesterday, and this was probably one of the coolest interviews I've done so far. The interview in its entirety goes over an hour long. Now, obviously, that's a bit long for an interview, But we are actually going to make the entire interview available on thegamersdome.com. You'll be able to hear it exclusively there. So when we post it up on the website, we're going to post up a link to the full interview for those who want to hear. And you really should hear the entire interview. It is incredibly enlightening. There is just, I mean, this guy is absolutely fascinating to listen to. He has done a lot within the game of Magic. I've known him for a while. So what we've done is I went ahead and broke the interview down into a shorter piece of it. So all Jon Stewart like I said, if you want to hear the long one, feel free to go to the website. So without further ado, here is the interview with Mr. Dan Bock. He is the owner of Power9.com. A great place that if you need cards, and you just hear the interview and enjoy it. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in Magic.
I was in a youth group, a Jewish youth group, and I was wandering through the halls of their offices, and some of my friends were playing, and I had never played before, and they just sort of brought me over and taught me how to play, and that's how I got into it, just by watching other people play, and they lent me a deck, and then a couple weeks later, I happened to be working at a video store at the time, and we randomly carried the packs, because back then, all sorts of random stores carried the packs. Once I started playing, I realized that we sold them, and I could get the packs pretty cheap, so I quickly got into it that way.
About when was that?
Ugh, you're embarrassing me. That was either 94 or 95, right around there. It was right around the Dark, Revised, and Ice Age.
Well, that's about as long as I've been in myself, so certainly not embarrassing to be one of the originals. So, okay, so I know you played for a while here, but at a certain point you got into the buying and selling, the dealing side of the game. What actually brought you into that?
Well, so I mean, I feel like there were sort of two different stages becoming more of a business in terms of, I feel like there were a couple different stages in terms of me establishing myself as a business owner within the Magic community. And what happened was, first there was the transition from player to floor trader, and then from there the transition from floor trader to, for lack of a better word, respectable business. So I always enjoyed the trading aspect of the game. It was really interesting to me to see what cards would be worth something compared to what cards were powerful within the context of the game. And it was always interesting that in some places, some things would be worth more than others. So there was always a really interesting element of arbitrage to the game. Because sort of back when I got started, the internet was just barely coming into being. So there was just not this widespread distribution of information the way there is now on prices and things. So first there was, so I would be going to tournaments because I really liked competing. And I got to the point where I felt like it was more time efficient for me to be trading between the rounds than actually winning the tournament. And I wasn't usually the best player in the room. I was pretty good, but I was also more likely to do well at trading than I was to ever actually win a tournament. I did queue for the Pro Tour 4 times, and I did reasonably well once. But aside from that, I had a reasonably unremarkable Pro Tour career, and part of it was that I was slowly steering myself more towards the business side of things.
Well,
so I mean, I became a floor trader, and I would, go up to all the dealers at any event, and I would try and figure out what they're buying, try and see if I could trade for the stuff that I thought that they were overvaluing. And then one day, I don't suppose, have you been around long enough that you remember Jose?
Remember who? What?
Jose Magic?
Yes.
I think he was out of Florida, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So he's sort of responsible for me becoming a much larger scale dealer. what happened was I had been talking to him before an event, and I can't even remember what the event was. But before the event even started, it was like a random pro tour or something. And he gave me this really generous buy list. And I spent like a week or two just hunting down as many copies of all these cards as I could. And then I met up with him at the event. And at the event, I was trading for all of these great cards that he was going to catch me out at amazing prices. Except whenever I'd come up to his booth, he'd always be like, I can't deal with this right now. I'll come back in a little bit. And this just kept happening over the course of the weekend. And finally, it was like Sunday evening, and I like had a cab waiting to take me to the airport to fly me back to Madison, Wisconsin. And he still wouldn't deal with me. So eventually I just had to leave the tournament, and I just had all these great cards that I thought he was going to pay me for. And I'd put so much into it, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. So I just started selling stuff on eBay, and that was the turning point right there.
So I have to ask you about this. You talk about the transition, and you talked about how you felt like you'd be a better trader than you would be a player. And then, of course, we have to go back to 2001 in Pro Tour Tokyo, this being one of the better Pro Tour stories of all time. So I have to ask, obviously, when you qualify for a Pro Tour, and especially a Pro Tour in Japan, and I've qualified for a Pro Tour in Japan, and I've actually done a fair deal of floor trading after I scrubbed out day one, so I completely understand how it can be a very good environment to be a floor trader in. Did you originally think, hey, I'm just going to throw 60 lands together so I get my 2 points? Or was there a point in the preparation where you said, well, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to do well, or was it publicity, or what? Tell me a little bit behind the story on that. What actually led you to run that deck?
So the background for that was I sort of entered the pro scene around 1997, and that my first sanctioned event was actually a PTQ, which I won, and my second sanctioned event was Pro Tour New York '97, which I took 23rd at. And I was very, very excited by that because it seemed like I was going places, you know. Was
that Pro Tour Rye?
It was Pro Tour New York '97. It was a draft Pro Tour.
Fifth Visions?
What?
Was it Fifth
Visions? Yes, it was Fifth Visions.
So you and I had the same first Pro Tour, only you finished a lot better than I did.
Possibly, yes. Do you remember? I don't know. Do you want random funny stories or?
I love random funny stories.
So I'm at this Pro Tour. Keep in mind that this is my second sanctioned event ever, and Madison's always had this amazing Magic community, and it especially had an amazing limited sealed deck and draft community. And so I get to this Pro Tour, and for the first round of the Pro Tour, instead of doing random tables, they sort of seeded people by their DCI rating. So I was all the way down at the bottom tables, this being my second event ever.
I didn't realize they had done that.
I'm pretty sure that's how it went. But so we get to the Visions pack, and I open my pack, and I've always been like a huge burn player. And I open my Visions pack, and there's a Fire Blast in it, and I'm just so excited. And I grab that Fire Blast, and I slap the other 14 cards down. And 2 packs later, I get my pack with 13 cards in it, and there's another Fire Blast, and I'm like, hey, that's weird. Thought that these other dudes on the Pro Tour would have taken this Fire Blast, but that's a good card. I'll take it. Then my 6th pack comes around, and there's another Fire Blast in there, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that Fire Blast, and I'm like, oh my god, I have no idea what I'm doing. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have flown to New York. I must be awful. I have no idea what's going on. Why am I here? I am scared. So I take that Fire Blast anyway, and needless to say, I end up with this absolutely ridiculous deck. My brother flew out to New York with me just to watch, and he doesn't actually play the game, but he described my first 3 rounds as you would play someone for a couple minutes, and then you would show them your hand, and then they picked up their cards and went on to the next game. And And that's how a lot of my games went in the first 3 rounds.
Okay, so
where were we?
I think we were transitioning into the Pro Tour Tokyo story.
Tokyo. Right. So after that, I queued for that first Pro Tour sealed deck PTQ. I queued for the second Pro Tour, which I couldn't go to from doing well. The third Pro Tour that I queued for was I think it was San Diego, probably 2000 or 2001. I don't honestly remember. It was Mercadian Draft, and I queued for that one off of rating. And I was just woefully unprepared for that thing, and I don't remember how I did, but it wasn't great. And that was the point where I was like, I mean, if you want to stay good at Magic, it's like any sport or any game or anything. You have to practice at it, and that was the wake up call for me that I just was not keeping in shape, for lack of a better turn of a phrase. And so I was like, all right, I'm done, whatever. And then the next qualifying season, or a couple qualifying seasons later, it was extended, and I really wasn't planning to play, except someone had shown me the Volrath Shapeshifter deck, Full English Breakfast, and I just loved that deck. That deck was incredibly amusing for me, and I've never fallen in love with the deck the way I did. It seemed like when you were playing that deck, you were playing a very different game than everyone else was playing, because they had just changed interrupts to instants. So all of the counter spells and everything went on the stack.
Yeah.
But any costs you paid still happened effectively at the speed of an interrupt, something you couldn't respond to. So when you were discarding a card to Survival of the Fittest, or you were discarding a card to a card I brought to the deck, Tortured Existence, it just happened right away, and they couldn't respond to that.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed the aspect of the deck where you were doing things and they just happened, and there was just no opportunity to respond by the other player. So I took Full English Breakfast and I turned it into, instead of it was originally built as a weird trade wind control deck, and I changed it into a combo deck. I played it at some random PTQ and just did awfully at it, but I learned a lot and I practiced a whole bunch. And then I wasn't sure whether or not I should be playing it again or I should be dealing, but Barrett Moy, who's an old school tournament organizer in the Midwest.
Oh, I know
the
Barrett.
Illinois, Chicago area, yeah, of course. Works with Pastimes a lot. He randomly ran a free PTQ, and so I was like,
what?
Free PTQ? I can afford to go to that. So I brought Full English Breakfast to that, and I didn't lose a round the whole day. I think I lost a game. I can't remember. And that's how I queued for Pro Tour Tokyo, which I was already planning to go to. At that point, I was working for Bob Maher, the great one.
Mm-hmm.
He had a Magic singles company, and we would travel and buy and sell from people, just like I do now for myself. And I was working for him, and we were already planning on going, so I figured I'd queue for the Pro Tour. I essentially queued. I don't even know. I queued effectively by accident, just because I joined in this free PTQ, because I was planning on going to the PTQ itself anyway to trade with people. But since it was free through Full English Breakfast, which I was calling Venison at the time, because it was it's like a Full English Breakfast, only meatier and from Wisconsin.
Nice.
So yeah, I queued for Pro Tour Tokyo, and so we're at Pro Tour Tokyo, and we're in the player meeting, and I was not planning to play at all. I was just planning to trade and buy and sell from people, and I went up to them and I was like, "How do I get my Pro Tour shirt?" And they were like, "Well, we usually give it out at this point in the tournament." And I was like, "Well, I'm not planning on playing." And they're like, "What do you mean you're not planning on playing?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, I'm not really prepared." And the format was constructed Invasion Block, but Invasion Block was only Invasion and Plane Shift. And I just remember it being a really not enjoyable format. Apocalypse really rounded off that block really well.
Yeah.
But Invasion Plane Shift constructed was really not that exciting, at least for me. And they're like, what do you mean not playing? I was like, I'm not playing. And they're like, well, you have to play at least one round, otherwise we're not going to give you the shirt. And I was like, really? That's what this is about? All right. So I went over to Bob, and I'm like, which color isn't played at all? Because at that time, they counted up all the basic lands in everyone's deck to give sort of a sense of which colors were being played. And he's like, really, no one's playing white. So I registered 25 plains and, what was it, 25 plains, 20 islands, and 15 mountains, I think. I don't know. I do remember it being red, white, and blue, and going a little heavier on the plains. And I turned it into a random judge, and he looked at it, and he handed it back to me. Cards on there, and I was like, ugh. So then I went and found Jack Donay, and I handed it in to him, and was like, hey, here's my deck. Give me my shirt. It's like, all right. He accepted the deck list.
It looks like, looking back, that it was 25 mountains, 20 islands, and 15 plains.
Really? Wow.
Well, that is something that you wrote at some point for Star City.
All right, I guess memory's funny like that. But if I could do it again, I would definitely have the 10 swamp and 5 forest sideboard. That was certainly a mistake on my part.
So obviously they caught wind of what you were doing and gave you a feature match out of it. I mean,
well, Donay knew what was happening.
Yeah.
I turned it into him because there was a little bit of a translation issue with me handing it into one of the regular local judges. So I had to give it to Donay, and I've known him for a long time, and he's a great guy, and he got what was going on. So yeah.
That's so it really wasn't a publicity stunt at all. It was just you just wanted your T-shirt.
Yes, it was. I didn't really think it was a big deal at the time. One of my good friends, Brian Brimmer, I beat out in the finals for the PTQ, and I know he would have gone to the Pro Tour, and he would have tried, and I still feel bad about that to a certain extent because a lot of people are like, you took this spot away from someone else. So that's a thing.
Well,
but it wasn't meant as a publicity stunt. It was meant as I'm going there anyway. There's this random free PTQ that I was planning on trading at anyway, so I'll just enter it with this deck that and there was this random PTQ which happened to be free that I was playing and trading at. So as long as I'm playing and trading at it, I might as well enter this free PTQ.
I do have one last question for you, and I think you'll have fun with this one.
You got it.
You're known as being a collector of various misprints and rarities, and
Yes.
are well known to being the first to really publicize the differences in what exactly was the alternate 4th edition set.
Yes, I discovered that set.
So why the interest? Why misprints and rarities?
All right, so I guess I can tell a version of the story and be sort of general. Back around Tempest, so that was about when I started getting interested in misprints, and the reason was that there was a guy who I don't think I can name him. I know who he is, but I don't think I can name him.
Okay.
But he was very interested in misprints, and I know you know who I'm talking about. And he would trade boxes of sealed product for misprints. So he would trade boxes away for misprints, and he would trade the boxes away very generously, and he would pick up the misprints very generously as well. But it quickly became pretty well known that he was doing this, and so it had this profound effect on the market because all of a sudden floor traders like myself at the time were really looking for misprints actively, and then we would cash out at the end of events effectively because product is very easy to turn back into cash, whereas misprints and regular cards are not as easy to turn into cash as sealed product is. So his just interest in his nearly unlimited supply of product just made it so that all of a sudden I had a vested financial interest in picking up misprints. So I just started doing it, and the more I picked them up, the more I thought to myself, I mean, these are really cool. They're unique. They have a collector value. if it's on a card that you can actually use an event, like a Hymn to Turok or something like that, you cast it, and people are like, "Wow, that's a really great version." And this is a year and a half or 2 years before foils even existed. So there wasn't really another way to pimp out your deck, and certainly back then people weren't pimping them out with misprints the way they do now. But they were rare. They were immeasurably rarer than regular cards were. So it was something exciting to go after. I mean, regular players thought that the rares were the best things in the world, or some of them knew about power cards and they thought power cards were the best things in the world. But the dealers would always be different collections, because they all have power cards and they have all the chase rares, but none of them have the misprints that the other ones have. So that was always it was almost a status thing, or an exciting thing, that because you can't impress another dealer with how many Boros Reckoners you have, or this really cool Alpha Max Emerald that you picked up that's in mint condition. Like, you've all seen those before, but that Hymn to Turok that has a different Fallen Empires card printed on the back, no one else has that one. Or the foil Misdirection, where the back of it is printed upside down. There's one or maybe two of those in existence in the world. So that's the exciting part. As for alternate 4th edition, that was a very weird and sort of, essentially, I was in college when I discovered it. So I was at a friend's place and they had a black light on, and we were playing Magic, and it was either a white knight or a black knight. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was a white knight. And it didn't glow. Like, all the Magic cards glowed under the black light, and this one didn't. And I was like, that's really weird. And I pulled it out and I started really inspecting the card, and it just felt different than all the other cards. It felt like a bicycle card. And I was like, either this is a fake or something's going on. And so I started going through all my 4th edition cards, and I found a couple others like it. And I think the Midwest had a slightly disproportionate amount of them. And I just went around to other dealers, and I remember at that Gen Con I had a little portable black light, and I'd be like, hey, this seems kind of weird, but is it okay if I take your 4th edition box under the table and look at it with this black light? I don't know what you're doing, but if you're buying Pit Scorpions from me, that's fine. So, in the meantime, I'd sent one off, and the guy who the miss told you about before, who would trade product away, I gave them to him, and I wrote a letter to Wizards of the Coast, and I was like, hey, these exist. Are they fake, or is this an alternate printing? And it took Wizards a little while, maybe a month or two, and they wrote me a letter back, and they're like, no, this is we can't tell you everything about this, but these were not printed at our normal factory. They were printed somewhere else. And it was this very vague letter. And then I talked in person to the guy I mentioned before, and he was like, so the real story is, we were looking at alternate printers. We sent these off to another printer, and they printed them, and we were like, it needs to be of this certain card stock, and for some reason they were like, well, we're going to make it better, and they made them, alternate 4th cards, if you hold them in your hand and you really get a feel for them, they really do feel like bicycle cards, which is a playing card that, like a 52-card poker deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely feel different.
Originally, we actually called them Waxback 4th edition, because it just felt like they had a waxy layer to it. Eventually, some people called them Summer 4th edition, and then eventually the Magic community settled on alternate 4th edition for their name. But within our internal inventory, the boxes are still labeled WB40, or Waxback 4th edition. So this company was like, well, we're going to make them more durable and everything. And the colors are a little bit more vibrant, but the card stock really feels different. And that was, of course, a problem, because Wizards, despite not always doing it, they always wanted consistency between the sets of their card stock. So the unofficial story is they sent these off to another company. The company kind of didn't impress Wizards, and Wizards decided not to go with them for printing those cards. And I just happened to be sort of in the right place at the right time with a black light on in the room to notice it.
Now, one thing I've heard that these weren't supposed to get out, and you'll have to correct me if my memory is incorrect on this, because it very well might be. But I seem to remember way back in the day, there were a pair of Magic comic books. And in each of these, there was
a fireball and a blue elemental.
A fireball and a blue elemental blast. And those were from that card stock, correct?
They are not from that card stock. They are not. You're correct. The alternate 4th edition cards were not supposed to get out. And I did leave that out in my story just now. I'm sorry about that. They were not supposed to get out. The company told them that they destroyed all of them. And then I'm not sure what happened at that point, because the cards did show up in official Wizards wrappers. And there are people in the misprint community who will correct me, but I'm pretty sure that either the company made them in wrappers and they got distributed somehow, or the cards were because they have different UPCs. So I don't think they shipped them to Wizards and then Wizards accidentally shipped them. I should really know this, and I don't, and it's embarrassing. The cards got out. They have slightly different wrappers on them. You can identify them without opening them. They did get out. To answer your specific question, the Blue Elemental Blast and the Fireball are not from Alternate 4th. They are official. They are from the regular card stock. The difference between them is that 4th edition came out in 1995. And 4th edition cards have 1995 on them, and the alternate 4th edition cards also have 1995 on them. But the Fireball and the Blue Elemental Blast both have 1994 on them, because they were printed just slightly before 1995. And that's how you can tell the difference between them and regular 4th edition cards. So if you guys have 4th edition collections at home, check your Fireballs and your Blue Elemental Blasts if they have a 1994 on them. They are slightly more rare and a little bit more valuable than they'd otherwise be.
And that was a snippet of the interview I had with Mr. Dan Bock. And certainly, like I said, the entire interview actually runs about an hour total. We talk about cars, we talk about woodworking, we talk about Frisbee, we talk about a whole lot of other things. And it's really just a fascinating. He even talks about how he got into dealing. And it was just too much to play here. Thank you to Dan for that interview. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. And guys, look on the website. Once you see the posting for this episode up, we're going to put a link to the full interview. And it really is just worth your time to listen to it there.
So you got into dealing? I mean, wow.
Who?
You?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was
That sounds a little shady, Scott.
I was I owned a company called Shuffle and Cut Games. I started it in 2000 and ended up getting out in 2008. So I ended up selling it to a partner of mine who still runs it to this day.
Yes, yeah, I don't really know that much about the whole Magic the Gathering thing. So hearing that you were into dealing is a little suspicious, just gonna say.
I know my way or two around some Magic cards. Okay, so when we come back, we will be doing, we have a couple of Kickstarters of the week that we want to talk about. We will discuss what we've been playing and more. You are listening to the Gamers Dome on the Drawing Board Radio Network. Do you need professional, reliable dog walkers, house sitters, or cageless in-home boarding? Check out my friends over at Leash and Lodge. They use GPS tracking for their walks, so you know they're always showing up when they say they do. With a 5-star Yelp average, they're the only guys you need to know. When you sign up, mention promo code DOME to get $15 off your first invoice. Check them out now at leashandlodge.com. That's leash, A-N-D, lodge.com. Leash and Lodge, because the better way is finally here.
Do you have a bookshelf full of comic books right next to the one full of video games? Are you a Whovian? A Trekkie? Do you aim to misbehave? Are you friends with Leonard and Sheldon? Do you tabletop with Will? If you answered yes to any of these, I have a new podcast for you. Digital Nerdage, the nerd culture podcast, visits everything in the world of nerd. Check it out at www.digitalnerdage.com.
Attention Magic the Gathering players. 10 Packs is a strategy guide aimed at teaching beginner and intermediate players how to approach the Gatecrash booster draft format through the eyes of 4 of the world's greatest players. They include Pro Tour champion Luis Scott Vargas, Pro Tour top 8er Melissa De Tora, Magic Hall of Famer Rafael Levy, and Pro Tour Gatecrash champion Tom Martell. Each pro examines 10 packs of Gatecrash as if they were the first packs opened in a high-level competition. They weigh the merits of each card, giving explanations as to why they'd pick a particular card over the others. They detail various draft archetypes in the set, and in many cases discuss the general draft strategies underlying their respective decisions. In Part 1, each author examines the same 5 packs, giving the reader their in-depth analysis of each pack. In Part 2, the authors each examine 5 unique packs on their own, giving the reader a grand total of 25 Gatecrash booster packs reviewed. Their professional insights will give you the knowledge you need to elevate your drafting abilities to the next level. 10 packs is only $7.99 and available now in the Amazon bookstore. Just search the store for 10 packs and check it out now.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Gamers Dome.
Hello.
Hello.
I have to apologize to everybody tonight. I am on some painkillers. I cut my finger earlier, so.
Why? Why'd you do that?
Well, you know, I just want to feel alive. No.
The Gamers Dome does not condone people cutting themselves to feel alive.
No. It was a dishwashing accident.
You know, I've had a number of friends apparently cut themselves doing dishes lately. This is getting to be epidemic.
These knives are so sharp, and I was just washing it, and like my hand just slipped, and the knife, like, yeah, it was not a pro dishwashing method, so it really was my own fault. But the tip of my finger survived, which is important.
Yes. Maintaining all of your fingers is a good thing.
Yes. But I have to apologize. I'm really out of it tonight, so I'm not my usual obnoxious self, which might be a blessing, I guess.
Well, let's move to Kickstarters here.
Yes.
So the first one I want to mention, I'm just going to touch on this one briefly because this is a project I came across which seemed really cool. It's a little outside the world of gaming, but I feel like a number of gamers might be very interested in it. It's called the Massive Fiction Project, 3 novellas and story stubs. You can just, if you search for Massive Fiction Project on Kickstarter, you'll find out about it. So long story short on it, it's a really cool project where there are 3 authors that have helped create this world where, as you might know in a lot of stuff, there's a lot of fan fiction based on popular worlds, but it's not really allowed. It's not even legal. You can't sell it. You can't do anything with it, and it violates a lot of like intellectual properties. Well, this is actually one where they create the world, and not only is it allowed, it's encouraged. You can sell your fan fiction on it, and it's the entire basis for the project. So it's a really neat project. Check it out at Massive Fiction Project. You can search that out on Kickstarter. The other one, which I would like to mention, and this is a gaming project, which really has me kind of going, ooh, this is neat. It's called KR17, just KR-17. It's from wonderfling.com. And it's... So let me just read you from the Kickstarter a little bit, because why reword what they've already done?
Yeah, and they did it quite well.
Yeah,
so.
KR-17 is a 32-bit story-driven action puzzle platformer set around a military robot on a mission to subdue a rogue agent operating out of a military installation on the planet Valiant. And it'll be the first in a multi-genre series of games centered around the story of Terius, KR-17's home. And So as soon as you get to the page, and everyone check it out, I'm going to make sure to post this one up to the Facebook page because it's really cool. Matter of fact, I'm actually going to do that right now, like literally at this second. We're posting it. It's up now, so.
So go back it.
I know. Yeah, go take a look at it. It's really neat.
And their goal is only 3,000, so...
Yeah, they're not looking for a lot. They've got about 31 days to go. You can pick up a copy of the game for $10. They're going to be putting it up on Mac and Ubuntu, as well as Steam and Xbox Live. You know what? Really, the video is... tells you everything you want to know, and I was really sold after watching this video. Again, $10 gets you a copy of the game. $25 gets you the soundtrack, a sticker book, a beta key, and actually thanks in the credit. And there's a lot more as you keep going here. There's just tons of stuff, actually. I mean, these are some extremely generous rewards. I'm kind of surprised how they're doing it. I mean, even at $250, if you're in Dallas, you get all the rewards from everything, including a retro game night and dinner with the development team in Dallas. Like,
and for $1,000, you get to be a character in the game.
That's so awesome.
I know.
You know what?
Oh,
I like the $500 reward.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty.
The 8-foot tall cardboard cutout of KR-17. 8 foot tall.
Wait, that's $100?
No, that's the 500.
Oh, 500. Yeah, the 500. Okay.
Plus, you get everything else.
They also on their page is really cool. You can you can preview the music that they have for it, which is pretty neat. I like that they included that in their page.
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
There's so much information on the page, and like I said, I've already linked up the link. Take a look at them and click on it. You know what, guys? $10. It's $10. You're gonna at least get a copy of the game, and if it really strikes you, go bigger. I mean, I personally want to see this game made. It's $3,000, and I think we can. I think we can certainly take a big chunk of that and move it forward. So take a look, see if it strikes you here, and thank you for supporting them. So, speaking of things that we're playing, Amber, what have you been playing this week?
I actually have not touched Minecraft at all this week.
I'm sorry. Who are you, and what have you done with Amber?
I know. It's hurting me. I'm going through withdrawals a little bit. I've had to supplement it by watching some of the Twitch streams while I play this other game called Towns, which is only $15 on Steam, and I'm not sure if it's in the final stage or if it's still beta, but it is so cool. It's tough, but for anybody who played Dwarf Fortress, and it kind of goes along in the same vein, I suppose, as Minecraft. It's a little less sandbox type, but it reminds me of Dwarf Fortress in so many ways. But Dwarf Fortress was like, I don't even know it was like ASCII. It was like ASCII game. Like you would have these little ASCII characters moving around the board, and you would have to know like the @ symbol meant whatever. And so it was actually a really addicting game. And Towns is kind of the same. Whoa, sorry, my dog is really mad about this. Towns is very similar to Dwarf Fortress, but with graphics. So I love it, and I'm not very good at it yet.
So, cool.
So that's my game. What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I'm going to transition. First of all, I mentioned I've been playing some Magic, and you mentioned Twitch. I'm actually going to give a shout-out to one of my friends' Twitches who plays a lot of MTGO, and as much trash as we might talk to each other, and we do talk quite a bit of trash to each other, he's actually a pretty good player, and if you want to watch a guy who does pretty darn well playing MTGO, and get a few viewers over to him. His name is Ian Straka. So if you go to Twitch TV or twitch.tv/Ian _underscore Straka Straka, check out his feed there. It's pretty good. He's off and on. Certainly, once you subscribe, you can figure out when he's going to be on. But I know I was watching him cube it up a little bit last night, and I watched him just rip through a couple of guys pretty easily. So it was he's entertaining to watch too. So I had fun with that. So besides Magic, which I mentioned at the top of the show. Wow. So I got my hands this weekend on a bunch of new games. Actually got a box in from the Gamma Trade Show that had a bunch of games from people there. So this was really cool for me to get my hands on some stuff I hadn't been able to before. So I got my hands on a game called Hey, That's My Fish from Fantasy Flight Games. And it's just a little box. I mean, the game is very simple. It's got a bunch of plastic penguins in it. And within the and in there's little like hex cutouts of ice particles, and there's like 60 of them you start on, and then you place your penguins, and each player takes turns moving their penguin from one ice block to another in like a straight line. You can move one space or as many as you can in a straight line, and whenever you move, you remove the piece that your penguin started on. It actually, you remove it from there, and it has either 1, 2, or 3 fish on it, and that's the number of fish that you get in your pool. And each player moves. So as you're going, the game board is dwindling down to nothing. So it doesn't take very long to play at all. And then once neither player can move anymore, they collect all the fish and they count them up, and whoever has the most fish wins. It's a very
it looks so adorable, and I can see how it would be so addicting.
It is. It is an absolutely adorable game. I played a couple games just, I think it was Sunday night that I got my hands on. I played a couple games of it. We actually played 2 variants. One where the main variant is where you play with the fish face up, so you know what fish you're getting. And then we tried another one where we turned all the tiles face down, so we didn't know how many fish we were getting when we moved onto a tile. You wouldn't know until you moved off of that tile. And, I mean, there's a lot of strategy. It's a really fun game. Kids of any age, I mean, I won't say any age. I mean, I think they suggest 4 and up. But, I mean, really, if a kindergarten and up can play it. But the adults, there's definitely some advanced strategy to it. So it's not very much. We'll put a link to it on our website if you want to go pick up a copy from Amazon. I think it's like $12 or something like that, or it might be less. I'm not exactly sure, but it's definitely worth picking up. It's a great family game.
And it's cute.
Yes, penguins.
I'm kind of a fan of penguins, not gonna lie.
Okay, well, it's a little bit after 8 o'clock, so I'd say we are just about done with this show here. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible. You guys are always wonderful. Thank you. And
I have a shout out. I'm sorry.
Fire away.
I have to thank Paul over at thinkleet.com, because he has helped me tremendously with this whole Vegas thing, and has been hooking me up with some pretty cool hardware. So thank you, and check out his website, thinkleet.com. Cool stuff.
Excellent. thinkleet.com. In addition to everyone else. And then we have a lot of the same normal crew who has been helping me out. And once again, thank you to all of you. So we will be back on again next week, 7 o'clock, Tuesday. Oh, I almost forgot to mention. Man, YouTube. Be checking out our YouTube page as well. We've been putting up a lot more videos, and we're starting to put up our shows on YouTube as well. If that's a little more convenient for you, you can check them out over there.
Yay.
So until next week, this is Scott.
And this is Amber.
And we will see you next week. Until next time, keep playing.
Have a great one.